Building muscle is the key to fat loss. Everyone is focusing on the wrong tissue for fat loss. They are looking at fat tissue as the problem. However, the most effective solution for safe, effective and long-term fat loss is to focus on building more muscle. Why? How muscle tissue affects our metabolic rate. Muscle tissue does increase metabolism, though the magnitude of this effect is often misunderstood. Skeletal muscle is metabolically active. It requires obviously more energy for maintenance, repair and function. It contributes to our resting metabolic rate, which is the calories we burn whilst we're at rest. Now at rest, skeletal muscle burns approximately 6 calories per pound per day compared to 2 calories per pound for adipose fat tissue. Whilst the difference seems modest, it becomes clinically relevant over time and with significant changes and an increase of our muscle mass. Therefore, for example, a person with a higher lean muscle mass will have a higher baseline energy expenditure than someone of the same weight with less muscle and more fat. The metabolic impact of muscle extends beyond resting energy expenditure. Muscle tissue plays a crucial role in glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity. Skeletal muscle accounts for approximately 80% of the insulin-mediated glucose disposal in healthy individuals. This means that greater muscle mass can improve glycemic control and reduce the risk factors associated with metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. It's also important to recognize that total daily energy expenditure includes not just resting metabolic rate, but also the thermic effect of food, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, and exercise activity. Muscle contributes to all these components, particularly during and after resistance training, when muscle protein synthesis and the repair processes will increase metabolic demand. This temporary metabolic boost following resistance exercise, known as excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, varies in duration and magnitude based on exercise intensity and individual factors. So excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, more commonly known as the afterburn effect, it refers to all of the oxygen and energy in the form of calories that our body takes in and uses after exercise to help repair our muscles and help us to recover. Research shows that strength training is especially effective at raising post-exercise oxygen consumption. That's because, generally speaking, strength training session causes more physiological stress to the body compared to cardiovascular exercise, even at higher intensity cardio interval sessions. However, it's worth noting that overall exercise intensity is what makes the biggest impact on excess post-exercise oxygen. The relationship between muscle mass and calorie burning is grounded in fundamental metabolic physiology. Skeletal muscle tissue contains high concentrations of mitochondria, the cellular organelles responsible for energy production. These mitochondria continually consume oxygen and nutrients to maintain cellular functions. Mitochondria are responsible for approximately 95% of all energy produced within the human body. The more mitochondria we have and the healthier they are, the more muscle we can build and the more fat we can burn. Both HIIT training and hypertrophy training can increase mitochondrial numbers and function. Muscle tissue also releases something called irisin, which is a very interesting myokine. Irisin acts like a messenger, telling various parts of our body how to respond. It essentially informs our body that we need to start burning fat instead of storing fat, and that you need to cut down on your production of adipose tissue, which is fat tissue, in the future. Now, what's becoming clear is that exercise is about more than just building stronger muscles and bones or about improving overall cardiovascular health. Those are all vital, of course. What we know is physical activity could be playing a more significant role in triggering biological and biochemical mechanisms within our body. Every time we exercise, our body is ramping up its production of irisin, which is then distributed throughout our body. And the effects of this is groundbreaking. A study shows that irisin not only fights fat with a 1-2 punch. First, irisin appears to activate genes in a protein that transforms calorie-storing white fat cells into brown fat cells, which continue to burn energy way after you finish exercising. Second, irisin appears to inhibit the formation of fatty tissue. The study was published in the American Journal of Physiology, and they showed that stimulating the production of irisin via exercise is a beneficial clinical intervention for maintaining healthy body weight and combating obesity. For the study, researchers collected fat cells from 28 patients who undergone breast reduction surgery. After exposing the fat cells to irisin, they found a nearly 5-fold increase in cells that contain a protein known as UCP1, uncoupling protein 1. This protein is essential for fat burning to occur. Now, instead of waiting for a miracle drug, you can help yourself by building more muscle to increase more irisin to burn more fat. The researchers believe that irisin is also reducing the storage of fat in the body through a complex chain reaction that hinders a process by which undifferentiated stem cells are turned into fat cells. Just absolutely incredible. Now, irisin is known as a myokine, which is a type of protein released by muscle cells in response to physical activity. It has garnered significant attention for its potential role in mediating the beneficial effects of exercise, particularly in relation to metabolic health and insulin sensitivity. Research indicates that resistance training produces a more pronounced irisin response compared to endurance exercise. A study involving healthy males demonstrated that plasma irisin concentration significantly increased 1 hour after resistance exercise, but not after endurance exercise. So this suggests that resistance exercise might be more effective in stimulating irisin release. Now, the effects of resistance training on irisin levels have been studied across various populations, including those with metabolic syndrome. Now, in a randomized controlled trial involving overweight women with metabolic syndrome, resistance exercise did not significantly change serum irisin levels over an 8-week period. However, muscle mass increased significantly and body fat percentage decreased across all exercise groups. This suggests that while irisin levels may not always change, resistance training still offers substantial metabolic benefits. Now, muscles grow through what is known as protein synthesis, which is one of the most energy-consuming processes in the cell. If you're building muscle, it is not just the workout itself, but also the growth of the muscle that consumes energy and burns calories. Now, muscles will only grow if they are forced to grow. There is no reason for the body to generate more muscle tissue unless there is a sufficient stimulus. And this, unfortunately, is where most people fail to see results in the gym today, because they train with such low intensity that the body has zero reason to respond, and therefore fail to see any changes in muscle growth and fat loss. Okay, so what we do know, there are many reasons for this. Firstly, most people have no idea on how hard they must train to get a response from the exercise. And secondly, from my observations, having looked at thousands of lab tests, most people today are simply not healthy enough to respond to exercise, and they also have too much stress going on in their lives. What I want you to remember is this very important point. The healthier you are, the better you will respond to training. And also understand this, okay? Exercise is a stressor. The less stress you have in your life, the more you will respond to exercise. And the more stress in your life, the less you will respond to exercise. So stress management is essential for gains in the gym, along with optimizing your health. So back to resistance training then. It is undoubtedly by far the most powerful tool for becoming simultaneously leaner and obviously building more muscle. So for example, in this 12-week study, the researchers split the participants into 3 groups. Now, the first group wasn't told to work out. They were just put on a fat loss diet, and here are their results. Now, as expected, the calorie deficit did indeed cause them to lose weight, but only 1/3 of the weight loss was muscle. That means they were losing weight with the same 2-to-1 ratio fat to muscle that people become overweight with in the first place. So by losing weight, they weren't improving their ratio of fat to muscle. They were just simply getting smaller. Okay, and then we're now going to look at the second group. The second group of participants, they were given a cardio workout routine in addition to their fat loss diet. Now, here are their results. This group lost the same amount of weight, but by adding the cardio to their diets, they were able to lose more fat while preserving more muscle. This time, only 1/4 of their weight loss came from muscle, and also just a better result. But that's slightly less than the fat to muscle ratio that most people gain weight with. So now they aren't just getting smaller, they're also improving their sort of nutrient partitioning, improving their body composition. Now let's look at the third group of participants. They had resistance training added to their fat loss plans, and here are their results. Again, this group lost the same amount of weight, but by adding resistance training to their routines, they were able to preserve all of their muscle mass. 100% of the weight loss came from fat. That's what we want. Now, in fact, simply by improving just a few variables, you can build muscle at the same time as losing fat, as evidenced in this follow-up study. In this study, in the second study, we see that the participants who combined a fat loss diet with weight training were able to lose fat while also gaining muscle. And again, that's the primary goal. Now, new research published in the FASEB journal offers an explanation on why resistance training is so effective for fat loss. To our knowledge, this is the first demonstration of how weight training initiates metabolic adaptations in fat tissue, says the study co-author, John McCarthy, PhD Associate Professor of Physiology at the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. Examining studies done on humans, researchers found that this type of training causes significant changes in the way fat cells operate in a process called mechanical loading. Muscles get stressed through lifting, pushing or pulling, any type of resistance work, any weights, etc. In response to this loading, cells in the affected muscles release a substance that send instructions to fat cells, promoting them to start the fat burning process, according to Dr. McCarthy. Now, those changes, interestingly, don't only affect the muscles being loaded, he adds. This response can kick off a fat burning effect throughout the entire body. And of course, when you lift heavy weights as well to build muscle, you're also going to release other hormones like testosterone and growth hormone during the workout. And both these hormones will also have a significant effect on your ability to build muscle and lose fat. And again, the more intense the workout, the more testosterone and growth hormone will be released. And lo and behold, the better your results will be. So there we are. Building muscle with intense resistance training is one of the most important things you can do to lose excess body fat. But remember this, exercise is simply the stimulus. Then you have to get the diet right. You have to have optimum recovery in place. Things like saunas, massage, ice bars, optimum sunshine, things like red light therapy. Also good lifestyle habits, things like the stress management we've spoken about, really good sleeping habits, and also ensuring all your hormones are in the optimum ranges. So I hope you got something out of that.